Hello and welcome to Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is Stefan, your host, British by birth, American by choice. The Founding Fathers crafted some remarkable documents that led to the creation of a great country founded on liberty and self-reliance. I have lived in the Euro-socialist nightmare, and I'm doing what I can to return this country to the vision that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to strive to rebuild that shining city on the hill, for without us, the world has nowhere to turn for freedom. For the next hour, I will be presenting news, views, and guests that help keep the true spirit of America alive. And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever, whenever you're listening to the show. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, British by birth, American by choice, and all fired up and ready to go here on episode 219. Title of the show tonight, More Lawlessness from the White House, or from Dear Leader, or whatever you want to say. Yes, of course, we will be talking about Bowe Bergdahl and the exchange with the Taliban, but more about that later in the show. Don't want to say welcome to all my live listeners. And the show coming to you again from the new PCL studio in Georgia, so just outside Atlanta. We've got lots to talk about, and whether you're listening live, I do appreciate those of you that managed to make it live, or if you're listening to one of the recordings or one of the rebroadcasts, wherever, appreciate that as well. And I would just say, please tell your friends, the more the merrier. And also later in the show, I'll let you know how you can contact me. Please do that at as much as you can. I really like to hear from my listeners. Anyway, first of all, tonight, what's going on tonight? Well, tonight we have primary elections and a very tight race in Mississippi, where we have a GOP establishment incumbent, Thad Cochran, being challenged by Chris McDaniel. Early results had Thad Cochran up by over 5%, but polling up to about yesterday was indicating it was going to be a very tight race. Basically in the last half hour or so, Chris McDaniel pulled ahead. And the question now, I think, is can he, first of all, retain that lead? He was up about 1%, 1.5% over Thad Cochran. That would be great. But the second question is whether or not he can end 50% plus one vote or not, because, of course, if he does, that's going to prevent a runoff. And right now, he's been sort of right around that 50% mark. He got up, I think, as high as 51% or just under 51%. He's been in the 50, then dropped down to 49.9, and then back up to 50. So lots of excitement there. Let's have a look here. Right now, he with 87.6 precincts reporting. 49.9%. And of course, we realize that if he has 49.9%, it's going to mean a runoff. That's going to mean more money pouring into the state. Well, I guess it's good for the local economy there. But the GOP establishment is doing everything they can to make sure that Chris McDaniel, the Tea Party favorite, doesn't win it. Well, whether or not he ends up winning it, I think it shows for the establishment that they're going to have to listen to the Tea Party and what the Tea Party wants, right? We're taxed enough. We've got to stop the spending. Let's forget about all the other things, but those are the important ones. Let's get the economy back on course. And they're going to have to listen because they're getting challenges, and yes, they may just not make it. but surely that should be an indicator to the GOP that if they're the big tent that they pretend to be, that also listening to the Tea Party is as important, because otherwise they're losing half their base, and then they're going to need that in 2016. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going on. Just having a look across at my chat room, and just a reminder for folks, you can participate in the chat room if you're listening live. Obviously, if you've gone to my website, radio.patriotcomelately.us, it will take you actually to a site that is run by a company called Spreaker, and the Spreaker site has in the bottom left-hand corner a little green bubble, bottom right-hand corner, little green bubble, which is the chat room. Open the chat room and type in your comments and questions to me, and I'll try and answer them during the show. I want to say hi to Paul, one of the regular listeners who's just joined. Great to see you here, Paul. But anybody else who's listening live, let me know. It's nice to know that there are people live, and I think I've said this on the show before. I could just record this as a podcast and put it out on Spreaker and people could listen to it, but it's fun to do it live. It goes wrong sometimes. It can be a bit of a challenge, but I think I enjoy it more that way, and hopefully my listeners enjoy it more that way as well. So anyway, I'll try and go back to the Mississippi race a little bit later. I think that's the major one going on today. I'm not sure of any others. I was going to go and have a look and see what other races were going on, but I think that's the big one right now, especially from a Tea Party point of view. And we'll see. But, whatever happens in Mississippi, let me just remind you, right, the tide is turning, because the fact that we can get within single digits of a GOP establishment incumbent means that people are awakening. So GOP establishment, watch out. And for all the Tea Party supporters, all the conservative supporters, all the libertarians who still believe in the GOP party, keep the faith, because our time is coming. If not this year, then in 2 years' time, we are going to do it. So, in that spirit, let's continue on with some good news. And the good news is that, first of all, I want to talk about a David versus Goliath situation. And basically, a small Christian pro-life ministry has shut down one of the biggest anti-Christian pages on Facebook. Now, there's been on many shows I've talked about the complaints about Facebook, that it's basically a very left-wing organization, tends to put conservatives and the like and Christians down. However, about a week ago, a page called the Virgin Mary Should Have Aborted page was actually removed by Facebook. And this was a campaign launched by Carrie Bowe, and he's part of Project Wildfire. And you can find them on Facebook by looking up Wildfire Expose PP as one word. And he is the owner also of a Facebook page called Catholics and Protestants United Against Christian Discrimination, which you can also find on Facebook. And basically what he did is he pushed Facebook to follow their own community standards. Bowe says this is not a First Amendment issue, because while people are free to say what they want, Facebook has issued its own standards, and remember, Facebook is a private organization, so they are not technically subject to the First Amendment. First Amendment applies to the government, it's the Constitution, but not to private individuals or private companies. But Bowe says this is an issue of Facebook's own standards regarding hate speech. Facebook does not allow hate speech. Their exact text is, "We do not permit individuals or groups to attack others based on their race, ethnicity, national origin, religion, sex, gender, sexual orientation, disability, or medical condition. So if you set up a site called The Virgin Mary Should Have Aborted, that to me sounds like religious hate speech. And that's what they did. Now, Bowe has had more battles with VMSA, and there are about, according to the article that I found, there are about 12,000 followers, but apparently it is the biggest anti-Christian page on Facebook. And in July, he had it removed after getting 20,000 signatures, so that's more than the followers of the page itself, and a Twitter campaign. But upper-level management reinstated the page. Now, Bowe says, if this is not the exact definition of hate speech directed at religion, I'm not sure what is. And that's because the cover of the page that was in Facebook depicted an aborted baby Jesus with a crown of thorns and blood running from his side as the Virgin Mary holds him while smoking a marijuana cigar. The profile picture showed a pregnant Virgin Mary speaking an explicative. So, he claims that is hate speech, and he went to Facebook and asked them just to apply their own rules. Now, he says, we all know Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg is an avowed atheist, pro-abortion, and a strong advocate for the LBGT, XYQZ, FRB, whatever all the letters are. But that does not excuse him from continuing to allow this page to remain. And looks like for the second time they've been successful. Now we'll see whether or not it gets overruled by senior management at Facebook again. But very interesting what happened there. So that's one piece of good news. But there's more, as the guys on the television say. The House has voted to defund Justice's anti-gun program. Now, you may remember last week we talked about Operation Choke Point, which was the Department of Justice basically leaning on banks and financial institutions in the so-called interest of anti-fraud measures, but basically allowing them to withhold credit from any kind of company that was providing anything of which the government did not approve, especially guns, ammunition, but also other things. Now, again, is it the government's place to do that? Isn't that First Amendment? Isn't that the freedom of doing business, right? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But, of course, as you know, this government just wants to control everything. However, the House of Representatives passed an amendment about a week ago to stop all federal funding to be used for Operation Choke Point. The Community Financial Services Association of America, which is a trade group opposed to the operation, said this is a major victory for consumers, law-abiding businesses, and anyone who believes in due process and the restraint of government encroachment. And I agree 100% with that. What place does the government have deciding who can and cannot have money? It's just a backdoor way to infringe on our Second Amendment rights. Of course, we knew that. They said if we can't do it through Congress, we'll just bypass Congress, which is exactly what they're doing. So, folks, we need to be up in arms about all of these things. But anyway, the amendment was brought to the floor by a Republican from Missouri, who's a member of the House Financial Services Committee, and he's vice chairman of the House Small Business Committee. So he's looking after the rights, he's looking after the interests of small business. The amendment was actually sponsored by 3 Democrats and 2 more Republicans, so 6 people all in all. The voice vote came in the committee as part of the debate on the annual spending bill for the Justice Department and needs Senate approval to become law. Well, So now that is the rub, because we know that Dingy Harry is going to sit on this and not let this go through. But we'll see what happens. It's part of the annual spending bill for the Justice Department. I would like to think that they defund the Justice Department if they don't let this go through. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Okay, folks, that's, if you don't mind me saying so, that's the end of some of the good news. And it is also, by chance, time for the first commercial break. So stick with me. I will be back right after these messages.
Are you paying too much for your car insurance policy? Have you shopped your current plan in the last year? If you haven't, then you probably are paying too much. You could save up to 40% on your current car insurance coverage just by making a free call right now. Doesn't it make good sense to pay less for something you have to pay for anyway? And car insurance is one of those things. You got to have car insurance, whether you have one car or 10 cars. So why not see if you can pay a lot less for it right now? One quick 3-minute call, and you could save hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. We'll compare the leading car insurance companies and get you coverage that could save you up to 40% on your car insurance. Call now for a free quote. Call 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. That's 800-603-9980.
Are you tired of commuting to a job that makes someone else rich, working harder than ever, but getting nowhere? Do you hate spending hundreds of dollars every week on daycare, having someone else raise your children? With our opportunities, you can start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss, work from home, and live a happier life. At Be the Boss Network, you'll find hundreds of work-from-home opportunities that you can literally start today and be earning money as soon as next week. Go to freedom112.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss. Get out of the rat race. Work from home. Go to freedom112.com right now and change your life today. That's freedom112.com. Go to freedom112.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You be the boss. Go to freedom112.com.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And we're back after those messages. Thanks for sticking with me. Just had a quick look there at the Mississippi race. Unfortunately, Chris McDaniels has now slipped down to 49.7%, but he is still about 1% ahead of Thad Cochran. Of course, this is probably leading now towards a recount. I don't know what the threshold in Mississippi is. That will be interesting to see. But as I said, unfortunately, pulling him further away from the 50% number that he needs to prevent a runoff. So we'll see what's going on there. Anyway, on to a new topic. And this is the I can't believe they are so stupid news segment. Yeah, I agree with those people. I'm sorry, I'm talking about regressives again. So, first of all, let's have a look at something I got from the Shark Tank, amongst other places. I think it was actually, it's been all over the internet. And this is another Democrat member of Congress embarrassing themselves and their constituents, let's face it, by stating a glaring lie and then clowning themselves in their use of poor speaking skills while trying to sell that lie. And in this specific case, as I said, it came from the Shark Tank, which is a blogger in Florida. So it does happen to cover a Democratic congresswoman, her name being Corinne Brown. She represents a gerrymandered district in Jacksonville, and this congresswoman, who's pretty dumb. I'm sorry, I just have to say it, and I know I'll get called racist for it because she is not a white congresswoman. She once called Jacksonville, Florida, racist in one of her comments, but she's really stepped in it now because at a recent Veteran Affairs hearing in D.C., she said that the Department of Veteran Affairs did not have a problem in Florida. Well, she's not been reading any of the IG reports or other reports of the veteran health care in the Sunshine State. For a start, the VA facility in Gainesville, Florida, was discovered to have secret waiting lists, the ones that are not supposed to exist. And there are other allegations of bad healthcare management for veterans for the Miami and Largo, Florida facilities. Even her colleague in the Senate, Senator Bill Nelson, who is a Democrat, has been crying foul against the VA in Florida. So why would she all of a sudden sort of say exactly the contrary? Well, one, because it's a Democratic talking point, but that was from a while back. But it took a little while to get through to her brain, and so she kind of uttered these total lies and just made herself totally ridiculous. And I think, it's really racist that she is even voted in. Such a dumb woman is really voted into Congress just for one thing, because she happens to be black, representing a district that's been gerrymandered to have a lot of black voters. The only reason she gets in. Well, shame on you, black voters, for not looking and seeing what a stupid woman you're voting in. If you've got to vote for someone of color, vote for someone like Alan West, but a stupid woman like that, you should boot her out, and I hope you do. Anyway. However, that was not the only one. And what we also have was a CNN anchor. Yes, CNN has put their foot in it. Now, remember when we elected Michelle Obama so that she could tell us what to feed our children? Well, I don't remember electing her. Do you? Anyway, about a week or 10 days ago, this report said CNN rose to its typical level of journalistic excellence when CNN's Carol Costello, well, she's also a pretty dumb lady, played a 2010 clip of Michelle Obama speaking of the Healthy, Hunger-Free Kids Act. This is something that the First Lady supported. And after the clip, Costello reminded viewers that the preceding clip was of when Michelle Obama signed the act into law. Michelle Obama signed the act into law? Well, Michelle can't sign the act into law because she wasn't elected president. Now, the clip showed Michelle Obama saying, we can agree in the wealthiest nation on earth, yada, 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 right, that nothing is more important than the health and well-being of our children. So again, it's this usual regressive thing. Let's put it on the children and health and their well-being. And if you look at it from that point of view, it makes sense, right? But of course, then came these things of starving the children, giving them food that the children didn't want to eat, etc., right? Of course, at the same time, if the children are so important, then why was her husband so instrumental in creating disastrous policies that have saddled our children with a humongous national debt that will leave them with a decidedly worse off America, and probably their children will not be able to eat well because of these disastrous policies? Think about it. Michelle's campaign to make our children's food so-called more healthy, but I think the children will say it makes it taste terrible. It's mirrored the success of Obamacare. Well, what do you expect? Just another No, just another half-white trash. Oh, no, Michelle, I'm sorry. I have to apologize. Michelle's not half-white. That's an insult to her. But anyway, trash either way. Now, let me just quote exactly what this dumb Carol Costello said. That was Mrs. Obama back in 2010 when she signed the Healthy, Hungry, Free Acts into law. And the reason it came up recently is because some members of Congress and the food industry, as Carol Costello says, want to roll back that initiative and to loosen requirements to cut costs. Yeah, in other words, people are not eating it. It's a waste of money, so why should we continue to pay it? Because the Regressives don't mind it. Money's not a problem, and we can print new money. We can get it from all those rich fat cats. Money's not the problem. We can just spend that left, right, and center. And when someone comes along and says, no, let's make sure we're spending it wisely, that is bad, that is racist, that is against these poor children who don't have food. And so King Barry actually allowed Queen Muchel to deliver the White House remarks, the weekly remarks, and she used it to speak out against that House measure. Right? Now, the Republicans have control of the House. So why shouldn't they do what they think is right? I mean, after all, it's a, dear leader himself who said elections have consequences. And we, the people, elected the Republicans to control the House that controls the purse strings. So what's wrong with that? Well, of course, they don't like it because it's taking away the money that they're spending and the favors that they're giving to their cronies to provide these awful school lunches. And so she gets this opportunity, and, all first ladies have a cause that they want to go for. So, and Muchel probably, she does have some influence in the White House. Most first ladies do. But she probably has more than most. But one important thing is she was never elected. He was elected. She was not. She's not a president. She's not a lawmaker. She's only an advocate for a cause, and frankly, a cause that is a mess. It's rife with hypocrisy and with egomaniacal sound bites. Isn't it amazing that we live in a time when the President dismissed the Supreme Court's importance as an unelected group of people, but he offers his unelected wife a chance to combat Congress on a measure in the House from the bully pulpit of the White House? Yeah, that's typical regressives. Just do as I do, not as I say. Anyway, let's see. Do we have time to start? Well, yeah, we'll have to take a break in a little bit. But let's start on something that's sort of good news, sort of bad news. I'm not sure what will really happen, but we'll see. See what you think of this next topic. And this next topic is: the Supreme Court will reverse Obama's EPA regulations. This is according to Dick Morris. Dick Morris, of course, who was an advisor to President Clinton, but now is very much a right-wing conservative person. And he says that King Barry's move to enact new regulations on power plants through executive order is a power grab and will be reversed by the Supreme Court. He couldn't get it through Congress, and he can't do it legally. On a Newsmax TV program also about a week ago, he said this is going to be reversed by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has allowed regulations for cars under the Clean Air Act, but has not ruled on stationary pollution sources like smokestacks. And he's pretty certain that it's going to affirm that you cannot do that. Now, I wonder. It seems like someone has some dirty laundry in their sights of people on the Supreme Court, because sometimes when things that we think are fairly obvious all of a sudden go in a different direction. Let's look at Obamacare as a very obvious one. But we'll see. Anyway, I'll come back to this topic. Unfortunately, it's time to take a quick break. And after this break, we'll continue with will the Supreme Court actually reverse the EPA regulations?
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-865-5017. That's 1-800-865-5017. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-865-5017 for details.
Why spend more than you have to on your life insurance? Did you know that term life insurance rates have fallen over 60% in the last 15 years? At the Life Insurance Quote Line, we monitor the rates, features, and financial strength of hundreds of life insurance products. For example, a healthy 40-year-old can protect his family with $500,000 of 10-year level term for less than $20 a month. Rates for women are even lower. And don't forget to ask us about the new term life policies that guarantee your money back even if you don't die. Since 1986, we've helped tens of thousands of people just like you save a fortune on their life insurance. Why not find out how much you can save? Write down this number and call today for your free quote. 1 5-minute call is all it takes. Call 800-915-9734. 800-915-9734. That's 800-915-9734. Rates, policy forms, and availability vary by state.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And thank you for sticking with me through that break. We're into the second half of the show. Just very quickly, because I know a lot of listeners don't listen live and therefore, can't participate in the chat room. But for those of you that aren't listening live and you would like to send me your comments, or you have questions about things that I say in the show, or like I said, or you have comments, you agree or disagree, whatever it is, feel free to contact me, and the way to do so is as follows. If you would like to comment on any of the topics discussed on the show, please email me via stephan@patrickcomelately.us, or go to the show's website, www.patrickcomelately.us, and click on the contact button. You can also write your comments on the show's Facebook page. Just search in Facebook for The Patrick Come Lately Show. And then also just a reminder of who I am.
Patriot Come Lately. British by birth. American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
So get those emails to me by whatever means, as told there. Love to hear from you. And of course, you might say, "Well, why these little breaks?" But I'd like to use the commercials and these other breaks. Take a sip of something. Tonight's beverage is an adult beverage, one of my favorites, hard cider. I guess that's my British background. Of course, a favorite drink over there, although it's got very popular over here. Just a quick aside, Patrick Come-Lately is also involved with brewing his own beer, and now that we've moved into the new house, the next project, once we get the house sorted out, and even though we've been here about 8 weeks now, there's still a lot to do, but the next project that's on the list to do somewhere in the next few weeks is to start brewing beer again, own beer, and in the fall to go up into the North Georgia mountains, collect some fresh apple juice, and actually turn that into hard cider as well. So looking for round about Christmas time, should have some nice homemade fresh hard cider to drink, and boy, that I hope that will be good. Anyway, but back to business, and we were talking about Dick Morris's contention that the Supreme Court will reverse the EPA regulations. He says that really the only reason Obama's doing this is to seize control of another 17% of the American economy. He says 35% of the economy is federal government spending. Healthcare, which they've just taken over, is 17%. Then if you add in manufacturing and electric power generation and energy at 7%, so that's those two together, 17%. Of course, manufacturing uses a lot of this power, so putting them 17. So that's 34, 35. You're talking about 69, 70% of the economy basically under control of the government. So if that's not close to socialism and or fascism, and there's a very fine line between the two, but that's what he's trying to do. And this isn't global warming or health or weather. It's just a plain and simple a power grab by trying to regulate power plants, according to Dick Morris. Now, the good news is that this move is likely going to hurt the election chances of a number of key Democrats, because everybody knows this is going to make the electricity rates skyrocket. Everybody's talking about it. And we've got Alison Lundergan Grimes running against Mitch McConnell in the Bluegrass state, because obviously Mitch McConnell did manage to beat Matt Bevin. But the Bluegrass state, 94% of their electricity comes from coal. And Dick Morris says as well it will have a negative impact in states like, let's see, what was he saying here? Yeah, in the Bluegrass state, in Kentucky, but also in West Virginia, where their Jay Rockefeller's Senate seat is up for grabs, and if I'm not mistaken, Jay Rockefeller was a Democrat, and so now we're probably going to get a Republican in there, which is one of the 6 that we need to take control of the Senate, and Mitch McConnell may become the Senate leader, unfortunately, but it's rather Mitch McConnell than Dingy Harry. And even liberal columnist Rick Ungar said that he was shocked that the president would choose to announce the new EPA regulations, knowing that Senate races in some key districts like Kentucky, like Alaska, are taking place in November, because these are going to impact states where the coal industry is a very big employer. So, but that's, for us, basically, let's face it, that's good news, right, folks? At least I think so. Let them shoot themselves in their foot. Okay, now to the main news of the day for the last third of the show, and yeah. So let's start off. We know that the big news, of course, has been the release of Bowe Bergdahl, who has been who's been held captive by the Haqqani terrorist network for around about 5 years. And all the discussions about whether or not the president can do this legally, lots of discussions going on. So let's have a look at some of the things here. And I want to start, first of all, that old thrill-up-the-leg Chris Matthews himself is deeply skeptical of the Taliban swap. Can you imagine that? He was talking with some people on MSNBC, and there were probably as many people on the show as actually watching the show, because he had 3 or 4 people in there. So that means there must be about the same number as behind the screen as well. And he was repeatedly questioning the wisdom of trading an AWOL and possibly treasonous soldier for terrorist mass murderers. So he opened his program looking with a deeply suspicious look into Bergdahl's statements and actions before he went missing from his post. And now there are the New York Times, hardly a bastion of Republican truth, right, revealing that he'd left a note behind saying that he was leaving, so he was AWOL. So why didn't the government just claim him to be AWOL? Something very funny going on there. And Rolling Stone reporter Michael Hastings had interviewed him and said that Bergdahl had repeatedly disparaged the U.S. military, said he was ashamed to be American. A lot of this has been coming up in the news, so this is all known. But Matthews also singled out as cryptic, and here's an interesting one. I haven't seen a lot about this. The statement's been mentioned, but nobody made the connection, actually, that Matthews made. The statement made by Bergdahl's father, claiming he was proud of how much he wanted to help the Afghan people and what Bergdahl was willing to do to go to that length. Matthews asked, "Do you have any idea what he meant there?" Talking to the Daily Beast's Kim Dozier. Did he mean sort of leaving his post, leaving his rifle and uniform behind, heading off in the direction of Pakistan? What did he mean by helping the Afghan people in that process? I don't get that. Is that the Afghan people they mean? Matthews continued, basically questioning whether Bergdahl was in fact moving to work or join the Taliban or the Haqqani when he was captured. Now, Dozier, of course, let that question hang. No way a lefty's going to answer that, but spoke forcefully for the prisoner swap. In terms of why you rescue him, he was a U.S. soldier in uniform. Matthews interrupts. Listen to this. No, he wasn't in uniform. He left the uniform behind. He was a serving U.S. soldier, Dozier tried again, but he left his post and said, and this is what I don't understand, was he AWOL? And if not, why not? Why didn't they declare him AWOL? Matthews also expressed profound skepticism over the idea that this trade might be a prelude to a peace deal with the Taliban. After Dozier said this could possibly kick off reconciliation talks with the Taliban. Well, come on, folks. There is no way you will have reconciliation talks with the Taliban. There is no way that they want to have any kind of talks with us. And listen to what Chris Thrill-Up-the-Leg Matthews was musing. I just wonder what could possibly. Women now have to be covered up. Their faces have to be covered up. No more movies over there. They blow up Buddhas again, he said, wondering what would happen if the Taliban gets power back. Are we going back to crazy Taliban behavior? What kind of deal are we striking with these people? So a lefty that comes out with the truth. In that respect, for what he said there, and that's about the only thing I would applaud Chris Matthews for. Everything else was is total crock that this guy spouts. But here, for once, he was asking the truth. And of course, he's right. The left is supposed to be, they're always saying that the Republicans have a war on women, and yet they support the Taliban, they support the Muslims, and who has a stronger war on women than the Muslims? Let's see, who else did Chris Matthews attack? Grill. Liberal columnist and Marine Corps veteran Goldie Taylor. Does this make sense? He asked. I think it makes sense to me because, in my mind as a former Marine, we leave no man behind. We don't qualify that. But didn't he leave his unit behind? Matthews countered. He left his uniform behind, he left his rifle behind, and he told people if he didn't like the mission, he was headed to Pakistan. What exactly was he doing? Truly spoken, Chris Matthews. Thank you for that. Okay, folks, time for our last commercial break here. Hang on a couple of minutes and we'll be into the last segment of the show.
Are you at least 62 years old like me? Could you use an extra $50,000, $100,000 or more to live a better life? Then please consider the benefits a reverse mortgage can provide to you. With a reverse mortgage, you can have your mortgage payments stopped altogether and get equity out of your home to live on. And you can use the money to help you live a better life. How nice would that be, not to have a mortgage payment? Qualifying for a reverse mortgage is simple, since there are no income, asset, employment, or credit requirements. However, you must be 62 years or older, own your home outright, or have a very low balance on the mortgage, and be prepared to live in it throughout the rest of the loan. Call now for more information.
800-704-1662. 800-704-1662. 800-704-1662. That's 800-704-1662.
I will never forget the day my son Jeremy told me he hated me and slammed the door in my face. I'm behavioral therapist Janet Lehman. Behavior problems can turn the child you love and your life into a nightmare. That's why my husband James and I created the Total Transformation, the step-by-step program that shows you how to fix the worst behavior problems and get your child to respect and listen to you again. No matter what the behavior, defiance, backtalk, angry outbursts, disrespect, we can help you stop it. Now you can get the Total Transformation for free. All you need to do is get the program and let us know how it works for you. You can keep it forever for free.
Limited number of free programs available. Call now. 1-800-259-1409. 1-800-259-1409. 1-800-259-1409. That's 1-800-259-1409.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRS-TV, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. Okay, we're into the last segment of the show, and I do want to change the topic a little bit, but not a lot. It is going to still be about Bergdahl. So in these last few minutes, so much we could talk about how these five that have been let loose are the worst of the worst. One of them presided over the murder of 6,000 Muslims, Afghanis, but they were of a different sect and didn't like them, so they lined them up and they were slitting the throats of these 6,000 men and boys in front of their wives, mothers, sisters, daughters. I mean, this is just crazy that we let them out. But anyway, so a Pentagon official, again speaking anonymously because they don't like whistleblowers in the government, surprise, surprise, saying why Obama made the trade. It was totally political. It was publicly justified with lies. It breaks decades of U.S. policy. It breaks American law, puts America at risk. It undermines the government of Afghanistan, and it passes responsibility on to the next administration. But the main thing was that it was political. And it wasn't done to take the spotlight off the failures at Department of Veteran Affairs, although it's probably the timing is coincidental for them. I don't believe in coincidences. This is, I think, though, is a happenstance that was very convenient for them, because this has been going for much longer. Something like this doesn't get arranged overnight. But basically, it's political, because as long as Bergdahl was in Taliban or Haqqani captivity in Pakistan, the Obama administration would never be able to close the chapter of the failed Afghanistan campaign, which basically Obama approved and then under-resourced the surge of U.S. forces in the country, right? So he said we've got to focus on Afghanistan, but then when the army asked for a surge, basically would not give them the people that they needed. So it was a reminder of King Barry's strategic failures while they were getting ready to leave. So they can't have that going into the 2014 and 2016 elections. He had to come back. So dear leader agreed to an unprecedented deal in blatant violation of U.S. law and established precedent, because we've always said we would never negotiate with terrorists. And now the precedent has been set that we will. Again, dear leader and his cronies choosing short-term political gain over long-term security interests. Now, claims of the poor health of Bergdahl were false, because he was no worse than someone who'd been a prisoner for 5 years. He was able to walk without assistance to the special operations force that picked him up and climbed aboard the helicopter. He was mentally sound enough to recognize what was going on and communicate with the American forces, and none of the symptoms that he's displayed are life-threatening. So why this rush? No, it was just another administration lie trying to justify its actions, right? And I think this is something a lot of people are overlooking. They're talking about the fact that what was done was illegal because the president hadn't given 30 days notice to Congress. But also there is a law that says you are not allowed to negotiate or give anything to terrorist organizations. And this was not a prisoner of war situation. This was a terrorist situation. These people in Guantanamo were not prisoners of war. They were terrorists. And that is really stupid of us to do that. Also, negotiating with the Haqqani network. It wasn't the Taliban, it was the Haqqani network we were negotiating with through the government of Qatar, or as you say, Qatar. The administration violated the policy. Now, when Susan Rice was asked about it, Susan Rice lied again. This shows she should not be allowed on Sunday shows because she always lies. She said, the United States, no, we didn't negotiate with the Haqqani, we did it through Qatar. Okay, so if you pick up the telephone and call the Haqqani and Qatar acts as that telephone, is that any different? No, that is really bad. So it makes it no different to just picking up the phone or email or whatever. Why, when asked about why there hadn't been 30 days notice given, this was for security reasons, yet they told Congress about the Osama bin Laden raid. Folks, this is just very, very bad. And plus, they were going for a lot longer than 30 days on that. Anyway, folks, join me next week. We'll see what's happened with Bergdahl by then, whether or not he's actually been taken to court or court-martial. Folks, see you next week. TTFN. Thank you for listening to the show. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's topics. Whether you listened live, to a recording, or to a rebroadcast, I appreciate the time you share with me. We need to spread the message of liberty far and wide, so please tell your friends and family about the show. Thank you for helping to keep the beacon of hope burning. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, signing off. God bless America, and remember, L3, long live liberty.